Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 201 of Kouryer Podcast. And yes, we have officially entered the season three of the podcast. I don't know how long will it take, till we get to the end of this season. Maybe 2 years, 3 years, who knows? But our today's guest is a special guest. He's someone I've been watching his YouTube videos for about a year now. I didn't tell him this,
Oh,
in our previous in the call before the recording. And well, our today's guest is Mr. Kevin Ramirez. He's an artist and designer from California, United States. He's mostly known for his, works with the grease pencil, features within Blender. And before we go into the signature question of the podcast, I need to quickly mention that in the for contact section of the caption, you can find the ID to his Instagram account, a link to his grease pencil course, which we will talk about in this podcast as well, about like details and information about it, and also links to his YouTube channel, his Twitter profile, and also his personal website. And speaking of personal websites, I wish I was sponsored by some company so I could, give like a Squarespace or some, a sponsor like that, but I'm not. But what I'm going to say actually is kind of relevant to this, which is, with the whole thing that happened, with our session, a lot of artists are actually, decided to, pay for a domain every year and make their own websites. By the way, could you give me your, thoughts, on that, about this whole thing, and if you're going to, I mean, of course, you already have your personal portfolio website, but what is your
mm.
opinion on this whole AI thing that's been happening? Because that's a hot topic of today, right now. Right now, as
Oh,
of recording
yeah.
of this episode, we're at 17th of December, the date we're recording.
Mhm.
I don't know when will this episode be edited and uploaded, but to anyone who's listening to the future, I'm just going to give you the
Yeah.
context of the date and everything. Go on.
It's it's funny because I'm not on Twitter a lot, and so when I logged on, like 2 days, I think it was yesterday, I saw everything that was happening, and I think it's kind of been a while since a lot of artists united for something like that, and so it was really interesting to see like all these people coming together to really communicate like a very singular message, and that's what I thought was really nice about the movement. I'm personally not on ArtStation, so I've read what has been happening, and I actually just uploaded a video on AI generated artwork and like what my opinions were on it, because that was actually something for my channel that I love to experiment with. Was like actually before my channel I was working in research and development, and so we did a lot of new technology. So I've been looking at AI from like a different scope and seeing it like evolve. And so I think culminating to like this ArtStation like fiasco, I think I understand the concerns. There's a lot of concerns around ethics, especially when it comes to AI generated artwork. But I think there's a lot of miscommunication, especially on both sides, from artists and for people who are, developing these the models for AI. So I think that's kind of where the argument gets lost. But I do think that both sides have valid concerns for sure. But I do want to support artists. I think there is a lot of concern, especially with how rapidly AI is evolving. Like, how is this going to affect that whole economy of people who are creative in the future? For sure.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
with all the regulations and the thing that the artists are uniting and pushing forward and trying to, pressure, their lawmakers, to make,
Yeah.
legislations and, all that stuff for it is basically because without the data sets, huge data sets, like AI's
100. Yeah.
progress and growth will really, slow down, really
A
slow down.
100%. I think exactly. And, I've said this many times, and like, it's a big thing. Like, it's not even what everyone's complaining about now is not an AI issue. Like, AI has been in use for many years. It's not even, I think a lot of people just know AI is coming into existence because of the generated artwork, but AI has been in use with like computer vision. Netflix uses it for recommendations. Like it's actually being used for targeting demographics. Like it's used in so many industries already for many years. It's just that when it comes to generated artwork, the issue is IP. Like the when you train a model, like you're actually taking like actual artwork from people who have already created it, from humans have created it. And a lot of people, on both sides, some people are like, it's not taking the artwork directly. Yes, we understand that it's training off the artwork and it's not using the artwork directly, but it wouldn't have learned how to do the artwork without, seeing that data set. And on the other hand, it's artists not, just seeing that people aren't really appreciating like the human that originally made, the data set. And I completely understand. And there definitely needs to be regulation, especially on generated artwork, because in my opinion, I think that yeah, it's an IP issue. It's a copyright issue for sure. And I think people are just so excited about AI. They keep saying like, "Oh, you don't like AI. You're not like with the times. You're not trying to be technologically savvy." But like they're just missing the real concern, which is no, it's not AI. Like AI is going to be here regardless. It's here to stay. It's already being implemented. But the fact is, it's the humans that are controlling the data sets. That's human control. That's not AI controlled. So sorry, I have a very strong like opinion on it for sure, but I think it's just a lot of people are just uneducated on how it works. Which is mind-boggling to me because sometimes it's like when you feel like you want to be a part of the conversation, it just gets lost in translation because people are so passionate about how they feel and they're not willing to listen to each other. So
Yeah, I know the whole thing with, people usually get polarized a lot, especially in the past couple of years. The world has gone a
yeah.
bit crazy, which, has, I guess, some is a factor that can't be, denied in this whole issue. But yeah, I'm
Hmm.
I'm glad and hopeful that, that a lot artists are uniting all over the world, against this whole issue. And well, with the fact that, Tencent actually owns like a huge chunk of ArtStation. I don't know, maybe fully, I don't know, like, but I've heard that Tencent actually the huge, Chinese mega corporation and owns ArtStation. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think
it's a
that's
bit tricky.
oh, for sure. I think especially when like AI isn't really, it's now just being privatized, but just as a technology, it's in the hands of so many different groups and they're developing it at, different speeds. And I think that's the scary thing is that there's not one person or organization that's going to be able to regulate, what they do with it. And I think that's the tough part. But I don't know, we'll see. It's it seems like it's just evolving so quickly. Like, what's going to happen? We're just kind of waiting, like, um, a few years. But yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was having a chat with two of my friends, and I told them specifically that, because they were super demoralized because of this whole thing, and one of them is a 2D artist, one of them a 3D character artist. They're just, juniors practicing just like me.
Yeah.
Uh, and they were so demoralized, and I told them, like, regardless, like, those, big good companies and studios, they always prefer like a human professional rather than, using, AI prompts, for their works. I mean,
Mhm.
of course it could be used as like a tool to help, generate ideas and stuff like that, but of course it should, the whole thing, as you said, is like a copyright issue. But in the
Yeah.
end, a professional should, use the AI, prompts to begin with. So in the end, you still need professionals in some sense. But yeah, this topic is really tricky, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. I think even when I was like at organizations, because I actually used to teach like classes on AI and stuff, and especially AI specifically to creatives in like the entertainment industry. We would always communicate that it's a tool, like it's a good starting point. It's never going to be like someone's going to enter a prompt and then like here you go, because even in TV shows, they're using AI to develop like pilot scripts, like write an episode like with chat gpt. But like one experiment that was done earlier was that especially for soap operas that are they need an episode every day, they were thinking like maybe we could just like have the AI generate like a starting point and then we could get an actual writer to like copy edit it and then write it out, use it as like, because it's always easier to start from somewhere. But I think, and I definitely think that AI could be a helpful tool, just like any creative tool. But again, it's like, is it going to be ethically sourced, like the original data that it's using? And I think that's the question that needs to be answered for sure. So
Yeah, definitely. And
yeah.
well, this is actually the first time I did this in an episode, because every time after the introduction, I would jump into the signature question. But
Oh.
since this is a new season, I'm trying to change the format.
Yeah.
So I usually start with the hot topic of the day, which was
Mm.
AI, for example, right now, and we talked about it, and that's probably what's on in everyone's mind right now. Let's be real. So yeah. And
Yeah.
all right, let's go to the first signature question of the podcast, which I always ask everyone, which is, give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual design and art. Basically, tell us a story of your upcoming as an artist. How has your journey been?
Sure. It started like a long time ago. Probably, I think it was in 2002 because I just wrote this bio for CG Boost. But I started in 2002 with Photoshop because I was like a huge video gamer, and this was the era of like Zanga, which was like a online blog. It's kind of like a live journal. But a lot of people in my school were creating like these layouts and wallpapers that they could put on their like blogs, and so I wanted to learn how to do it. So my dad bought me a copy, or he gave me a copy of Photoshop. Might have been pirated. I don't know. I don't but he was like, just play around with it and see what you can do. And I honestly fell in love with the program. I thought it was so fun to be able to like, get pictures and like collage them together and create these like photo manipulations. But and so I did that for a number of years just like for fun. It was kind of like something I like to do for a hobby. But growing up in a family that was really conservative, like they weren't, my dad was really supportive of it, but obviously like my path was supposed to be something in science, medical, or like engineering. Like it wasn't like creative or art was never a good foundational like career. And so I think like going into college, I never thought of it as like a real like career step, because I was like a biology major. I ended up doing business marketing, graduating with it. But the funny thing is, the only thing I could do for like part-time jobs like while I was in college was graphic design. And I was like, okay, well, I could do this. I could make your social media thing, and this was around like 2008 or 2009. And so I ended up doing it. Like I was getting a lot of like part-time work doing it, but I guess that just never convinced me that I could make it into a career. And so when I graduated, I ended up going into like the marketing field, like for a grocery store. And there I was like a marketing coordinator, and we needed a designer to like create one of the advertisements. And it was so late and we didn't have one. And I was like, okay, I'll just do it myself. So I ended up doing it. And then they were like, how did you do that without like a creative? And so I was like, well, I mean, it's like something I was able to do, but obviously, never thought I could do it professionally. And so that kind of like changed the tide. So after that, I ended up pursuing more creative like endeavors. I ended up doing design for entertainment. I was like a web developer. I did like different like designy fields. And then I ended up at Disney, where I ended up at Disney doing new intellectual property development as a designer, which is so funny because that was like my dream company. Like I always wanted to work for Disney. And so there we created like new TV shows for like, you know, tween girls, tween boys, like all different age groups, preschool to young adult. And that was so much fun because we got to brainstorm like different stories that we could make, different, and there I was like the lead designer for like almost for every property that we developed. So it was like I would create the logos and the style and the look of each property that we were thinking of. But that was really a very challenging job because I really like to think of my own ideas and stories, and I liked that aspect, which is like gathering people together and being able to like execute something like a creative vision. But it was such a quick like work environment. Like once one idea was there, we had to work on the next one, and it's like you had to like get in that creative mindset. So there, like before that, as a creative, it was really hard for me to like switch ideas. But I learned from there, like learning the business sense of it. And yeah, then now I was able to like work professionally as a creative. And then I moved on to doing other roles, but like being more of a creative producer, more of a creative director, working in immersive entertainment. It's always been like very different roles, but I've always associated myself as being like a designer. Like I love being a designer and an artist. So like regardless of whatever role I have, I always like come back to that because whatever medium it might be, I love experimenting with new mediums. So whether it be Photoshop or motion graphics or Blender, Grease Pencil, AI. Like I really like, just working with different things to, execute an idea or tell a story. So that's how I got into it. I'm sorry if that was a long answer.
No, no, no,
So
no. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
yeah.
I like long answers.
Oh, great.
It means when it gets usually it starts talking without realizing the passage of time. It means they're in the flow state, which is actually a good thing for podcasts. So yeah, actually, thank you for that. And the next thing I want to mention before I jump into the next question is like um as you said, you worked in many different disciplines and in areas, but the main thing you're known for is grease pencil, feature of Blender. And I
Hmm.
want to mention, and I've seen this pattern in a lot of artists actually, that have gotten pretty successful in their niche is um if you're an artist and you kind of are kind of tiptoeing around, don't know, you're a beginner artist, by the way, to anyone who's listening, and you're a beginner artist, like me, what I've realized is that if you could find something a niche, and by niche I don't necessarily mean a subject or a genre, maybe a program or an art style you like that no one even is kind of paying attention to, like not just you. There was another artist who she's one of my favorite artists. Her name in Twitter is username is Mad Maraca. She does this amazing voxel based environments, and she uses program called Magic Voxels. And before that, of course, people in the voxel art scene knew of this software. It's a free, I think, open source, free, small lightweight software for voxel, it, works, 3D works. And the thing is, she got super crazy good at it while no one knew what it was. Like she's, I think, on the top artist of the software, honestly. And around 2021, when NFTs came, at the time, the first wave of NFT artists were actually, a lot of majority of them were good artists who saw, NFTs as, oh, there's a new way to sell art. They didn't, think about shilling or stuff like that. So there was actually a lot of
Yeah.
legit good artists that got discovered, and she was one of them. And because she's been using, Magic Voxel for 4 or 5 years, she suddenly like skyrocketed to the top, even on the NFT world, and a lot of stuff like that. My takeaway and point from this is it's kind of similar to your situation as well. Before before your videos are if anyone was watching this, go to his YouTube channel that's been linked in the description. And the popular video playlist, you probably see you've had some of those videos in your recommended page on the sidebar of your YouTube. Trust me, you've seen them. And it's because before I this is my what I've seen by now, like, correct me if I'm wrong, because even before you started uploading consistently about making content about grease pencil, people knew what grease pencil was. There were in Blender updates and all that stuff, but no one really, I think you were one of the main people who put them on the map. There's another actually artist and kind of more artist similar in Turcell, who he, I think, made the grease pencil really popular as well. I forgot his name.
Hmm.
But I think before you guys, no one really paid attention to grease pencil, especially I think before your videos. And
Hmm.
my takeaway point from this is try to find something that no one really does or pays attention to, but you think you can be super good at it. It's like um an opportunity for you to take to be the first one to make it popular. So that's one of the best ways to stand out and quickly grow on social media and get a following. And not for the sake of following, but of course for the sake of getting eyeballs on yourself as an artist and also your future products, which is really super important. And my question is, which this whole rant was set up for this next question actually. What is your main branch of design that you're focusing on, and tell us about your experience from the start of it until now.
The main branch of design. It's so weird because like I don't know, like I don't know if there's necessarily like a main branch I like. I do like Grease Pencil and Blender and 3D. And the reason why I gravitate towards Grease Pencil is because it's so multi-versatile. Like it's so versatile. That's the thing. Like it could be any other medium, but I like the fact that it blends with it merges with Blender so well. Like Blender is capable of doing so much that I get bored if it's like one program, like a very like I need to be able to have like access to many different features. And so the reason why I like Blender and specifically Grease Pencil is because like I'm able to like merge different medias. And I guess I don't know what you would call that, but maybe just regular 3D. I guess that's the main branch of design that I'm focusing on. But I really just like it because I'm able to realize the ideas that I want to create. I think it's any program that allows you to do that, or any medium that allows you to, I don't know, feel good about whatever you're creating, I think is really important. And so I think, yeah, that's probably Sorry, what was your second part of that question?
It was and tell us about your experience from the start of it until now, which yeah.
Oh yeah. So I don't know if you know this. I actually started learning Blender like 2 years ago, which is so funny. I started learning during the pandemic because I had been traditionally like a 2D artist. And at that point, I wasn't even designing because I had gone into a role that was I was more of like a creative producer director. And so obviously that's more managing like other artists and designers and handling budgets and more project oriented stuff. And that's obviously another part of my brain that I like doing. I like being able to gather people together to execute something, but I really missed being hands on. And so during the pandemic, when everyone was you know sheltering in place, I decided to learn Blender, and that's what opened like my eyes. I was like, wow, I could do like so many different things here. Like this is like so awesome. Like it's a whole creative toolkit that's like absolutely free. It was so awesome. And so that's where I would say it was like my start of like that design trek was Blender. And to your point about being able to find a niche, I think to add to that, I think it's really important to find like a niche that you're also like interested in. I think that's kind of the big thing, because I feel like if you are interested in it, you'll want to experiment with it more, and you'll want to do things that people aren't doing with it. It's like if you're really good at that one specific thing, then you'll be able to learn it, and then you'll be able to like market yourself with it for sure.
All right. And well, speaking of grease pencil, this is, I think, the perfect time to also mention, there's a link in the captions as well, which is, the link to a cgboost.com, courses, page where he actually, made a huge, grease pencil, course in Blender, which is right now, for around $47.2, on the page it says, which is a good price actually, for people who want to get into like really good in a grease pencil. And yeah, the course is amazing, but just one thing, I can, of course, if I keep talking about, how great the course is, people just, it might repel some people, but I'm just gonna say this, just to point out, why it's a good course, because it has a bunch of reviews, and all of them, of course, the average of reviews are 4.8 out of 5, but it doesn't have a 1-star review, no 2-star review. It just has one 4-star and one 3-star. And here's the interesting thing: the 3-star review is not actually a negative thing; it's just a positive. The negative about this is, I wish it was more advanced stuff in it, and it was more. It literally. I'm not gonna name the person's name, but the person says, uh, for me, it's 3 out of 5 stars because it left me hungry for more. Like, I mean, that's not even a bad thing. It means the person got so hooked and liked the course so much, it was like, oh damn, I wish it was more. So, I mean, from that on, that was like the bare minimum, the most negative thing about the course. So you can imagine it's probably not a bad course. And if you want to actually add grease pencil to your toolkit as an artist, I think it could be a great start. But another thing I also wish is that I wish the courses not just would be also translated, localized, for other countries' currencies as well, like in CG Boost. But of course, I
Mm,
understand it's kind of tricky because on Udemy, for example, or Steam is not a like educational course page, but you get the point. Like even in Steam, like things are localized. Yeah, but I
yeah.
think that would actually open the door for a lot of more purchases because I'm sure, like I'm Iranian, by the way. I'm originally from Iran. All right,
Hmm.
like in Iran, because but right now I'm living in Turkey. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because of this. In Iran, because of all the sanctions and all the other restrictions that we have, like most websites are filtered and all that stuff. Unfortunately, we have to resort to pirating for a lot of stuff. But when I
Mm,
moved to Turkey and I finally, had my bank account from Turkish bank account, I could buy a sparf brush packs from Gumroad. I could buy courses. I could, buy games Steam originally because do you know why? On Udemy and Steam, especially specifically, prices are localized, so it's kind of affordable for me even to buy original things.
mm.
So I think if CG Boost, actually, I had another CG Boost artist on the podcast as well, Jonathan Lampold. Do you know him?
Oh, I think he's from CG Cookie, actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
oops,
it's
my
it's
bad.
okay. No, I
Yeah.
think it was a different company. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but they're both CG, and I'm
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
dumb, It's 8 a.m. here. Come on, yeah, it's fine.
Both in Blender for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it gets a
yeah,
bit tricky.
yeah,
And yeah, because of that, I think that could also lead to more sales. I think for both platforms actually. Now that we mention them as well, I
yeah.
think because
I
not just
noticed.
from yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh no, I noticed that too with the one video I have, the bakery, the grease pencil bakery. I think the the most requested one was like subtitles, or if you could translate into different languages. And that was kind of the first time that I encountered people wanting different languages for the tutorial, because I never really considered that. But you're right. I think there if it was localized, I think that would be definitely you know a lot more accessible to a lot of people. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
not necessarily talking about the language localization, which that would be great
Oh,
actually with just subtitle, but price
oh.
localization because on
Oh, I
Steam,
see.
yeah, because here's the thing on Steam, like a game, like I bought Hat in Time. I don't know if you played that game.
Yeah.
It's a, like an amazingly cute game. I love it. I actually bought it
Mm.
for myself to cure my depression a bit, which is actually pretty useful.
Oh.
But yeah, but the thing is, for me here is 50 Turkish liras, which 50 Turkish liras is around $3.5, $4.
Mm.
But if I wanted to buy it originally, I have to pay like 2 weeks worth of food, like
Oh,
of
really?
my money to get that. So that wouldn't be pretty affordable for me, right? Even Udemy
Yeah.
courses as well. Udemy's prices are kind of like localized as well. But the thing is, sure, it it might not give the the seller that much money as like a USD, but still, money is money. It
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just increase your revenue.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, but it gets really tricky because usually those big platforms, they have like statisticians, people who check the prices and the economy of each country, because
Mhm.
if you set a price and then 6 months later the economy of the country goes really down, you have to change it again. There's calculations, there's this complicated, I understand. But there's
Yeah.
something that always is on the back of my people who usually live in these areas. I mean, not just Turkey or Iran. I mean, like other places as well, like some East Asian countries maybe that are suffering, economically. I think
Yeah.
they have the same feelings as me when it comes to this stuff. But all in all, just long story short, a great resource, to go learn with Grease Pencil. And by the way, for anyone who's still skeptical, you can, go watch these videos on YouTube for free, for Grease Pencil. So then if you wanted to branch out and actually got super good at it, like, the Grease Pencil, I think the course is a great start, honestly. And yeah, do you have anything to add to that, by the way?
Yeah, more videos coming on my channel actually. So keep a lookout if you are interested. It was so busy like during the last half of the year that I actually just started uploading again because of the course, and then I was working on a few client projects. But if you are looking for new resources, they are coming. So and to the course as well, because I know that some people, or yeah, that one comment that they wanted more. But it's funny because I already planned out like the second part, and there's a lot more in it, because I think the first part I really wanted it to be foundational. So you are learning grease pencil and working with it in a way that's very unconventional, because I purposely did that. Like it feels like you're almost modeling with grease pencil, because in reality, like if you ever used grease pencil, it's a completely different tool inside Blender. Like it's not really your usual, it's not a mesh, it's like you're actually editing points and drawing. So it's very different from what people really think, and I wanted people to feel like, okay, I understand kind of like how it works. But the second part is definitely more about workflow. So it's kind of written already, and I'm recording it now, but it's gonna come out soon. So
All right. And how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a new piece or a project? Like basically, what does the structure of your pipeline look like?
hmm, it's very messy for sure, and I think a lot of creatives are messy too. But I think that's just kind of how it works. For me, though, it usually just starts with, I guess, an idea. The idea usually stems from something that I think would look cool, and or like a new feature that I want to try within Blender. And I think those are the two big things is like, oh yeah, I think this would be really fun to experiment with like armatures or, geometry nodes or with grease pencil. Like maybe I could do something with that. And, I visualize it in my head. And, the third big thing is I just need an idea that I can stick with long enough to finish it, because I feel like finishing your ideas is really important. Because there have been many times where I start a creative project and I just get bored of it and I just don't end up finishing it, and I always think that's kind of a shame, because it's, I want to be able to have milestones for growth. And so that's kind of the reason why I had a YouTube channel, is because I wanted to document everything I was working on so that I could look back and be like, oh yeah, I could have done this better, but now I see where I came from. And now I even look at my videos from 2 years ago and I'm like, oh gosh, like I actually did that. Like I look at it like very like seeing, how different, my knowledge was in Blender, and seeing now like where I've come from. So it's good to keep track. So it usually just starts with, having an idea that I'm able to follow through, and then I try to draw it out. I'm not really the best drawer. I don't even call myself an illustrator at all, because drawing is something that I like to do, but it's not really a natural form for me. Like it's not very natural. Like I can draw, just to have like a general idea, but once I do that, I model it. I like to model something very roughly, because it helps me with perspective. Like if it's something that's like an environment, or if it's like a person, I like to block things out first, and that's how kind of my process is. And once I have it all blocked out and I feel good spatially about it, then I take it back to a drawing program and then like roughly sketch out more. So it's a lot of like back and forth, between Blender and like Procreate, which is on the iPad. And so once I get to a good point where I feel good, I just end up staying in Blender. So I always try to take breaks also, especially in design, because if you're working on something for like a straight 8 hours, it might look good, but if you like take a break, come back to it 20 minutes later, you'll be like, oh, that looks awful. So it's like I always try to make sure that I budget in breaks, like in any kind of any step of the process, because you're going to look at it and be able to like have it sit and think about it, and then you'll realize, oh, maybe I could make this better. And so that's kind of usually roughly how it goes. So yeah.
All right. And actually, something interesting I need to mention while I was going through your videos list on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of interesting, for first you started with, your first video was from 4 years ago, actually, your first videos, and it wasn't about like, Illustrator or Blender and stuff like that. It was just, about graphic design issues like paracord bracelet, even drawing
Oh,
practice. But then, well, things changed 2 years ago when you uploaded Learning Blender first 45 days.
oh yeah.
And yeah, that was the beginning of the
I
end,
think
kind of.
so. Yeah, that was really unexpected, because I actually made that video more for me, because I wanted to, again, like I said, like I just wanted to document it. Like I wanted to look back and say like, oh, like, because like learning anything kind of sucks. Like it's not the best process. If you've ever tried to learn like a new program, you know how tough and difficult it can be. And so I wanted to be able to have something I could look back on and be like, oh, like be proud that you were able to like go from the default cube to being able to make like a Nintendo Switch. And so I was like so happy. And when I uploaded it to YouTube, I had no idea that it was gonna like be able to get the amount of views it did. So yeah, it was great. And I listed all the resources I use, because there's so many resources on YouTube that you can look at, which is amazing, which is why I also like Blender. But yeah, I think that's been a really big point for my channel, is being able to go into Blender. So
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I have a plan on doing like a 1 year progress Blender videos, because those usually do a lot of good numbers. But the truth is,
yeah,
yeah, because I started Blender actually January 2nd of, this 2022. So I'm getting close to that 1 year mark.
nice.
Uh, yeah, hopefully we'll see how that goes. But
Do you like Blender?
Of course,
Yeah.
it's great. It's in the introduction, like
Yeah.
to me, to the like the world of 3D and all the other
Mhm.
stuff. And I've actually like planned out all the stuff I need to do. Like I researched a lot about the qualification I need, for a good 3D generalist position or a good 3D environmental artist position,
Mhm.
like with modeling, engine works, texture, everything that's required on most of them. I wrote them down on papers here, and my plan is, and I've been starting to, work on them, slowly and slowly. And the thing is, in the past 2 3 months, I haven't been doing much art because I was forced to get a soulless job that I didn't want. But I'm actually, I saved up, enough money for 3 to 4 months right now. I'm quitting. I'm gonna quit it in less than a week. So I'm just gonna go laser focus and just work on my, skills and portfolio, try to level up, work on my YouTube,
Yeah.
and hopefully get freelance, commissions and art jobs, as well. Because if you're living in a country like Turkey or Iran, if you even get like $150 commission, that's gonna feed you for a long, long time.
Mm.
Like my rent is like around 100 $105 $110 in USD currency, you know so yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm trying to put all my eggs in I know it doesn't sound like a good idea, but I'm gonna risk it all and put it all in that basket of art, and yeah, hopefully we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's a really big, like, there's a lot of people looking for, especially the field that you're going into. I know it's a really popular thing. I used to do it. I mean, I did some freelance, but I have some friends that, they're able to find clients. So yeah, it's a really popular, a good field to go into.
Yeah, especially I also picked my niche in everything, like the
Yeah.
kind of niche and subjects I want to work on. I have my huge ref board of pure ref inspiration, and all my projects are revolving around that subject. And also it kind of helps when you have big personal projects for yourself as well. Like I have like a video game world, that I want to develop, but it's all on stylized, kind of low poly stylized stuff.
Yeah.
So like it's a fun thing. It kind of motivates you to work when you don't have that feeling of working, like
Hmm.
you feel like you're putting another block on the pyramid you're building, which is really motivating in a sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And well, the next question is, who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Who are some, I don't know. It's so funny. Oh, okay. I would say a really big inspiration before. Okay, so I have. It's funny though because a lot of them aren't really like 3D artists. Because like a lot of my inspirations are from like when I was just a graphic designer. But I like Gemma Eves. She's like actually a hand lettering artist, and she does a lot of like hand drawn illustration. But I really love her like style because it's all very like fluid. There's Romain Tristram. I don't know if you know him, but he's kind of like a graphic artist, but he does like really beautiful like illustrations that focus on like light. So he uses like neon colors with very dark tones, so it's like very vibrant and stark, and I really love that aesthetic. um and it's funny because yeah, I really do like illustrators. I like Art Germ. I don't know if you know him, but he's actually, I think, yeah, he's a really big popular like comic artist, but he also does a lot of he makes drawing look so easy, so that was a really big inspiration for me. But I would say that I do like looking. I don't really have like a specific artist that I generally look at, but I do like Pinterest. I do see like inspiration from different works and things that I like. So yeah.
All right, and what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project is it? I mean, of course, if it's something that obviously it involves NDA, we can skip right past this question. But if that's not the case, what are you doing right now?
Oh no, I think right now I'm actually trying to work on a holiday piece for before it the Christmas holiday, or and like hits. So I'm trying to do that, but I'm also working on a video for CG Boost. I don't know if you've like seen my Instagram, but I uploaded like a microscope that was like
Oh
It's
yeah, I
like a
saw that. Looks pretty cool.
So that's actually thank you. Yeah, it's actually a tutorial for CG Boost. A lot of people have requested like, oh, can you actually do something with like a 3D model and illustration? Because it wasn't something that like I actually did in the grease pencil course because that was going to come in part two. But I think I'm going to use that as a way to do something more illustrated, like an illustrated look. And it's something I've been talking with Zach on, and so or Zach from CG Boost. So that's actually supposed to come out next week. So I'm working on that. And then, videos that I think I'm going to, the next video idea is going to be like illustration or nodes, shader nodes for illustrators, because a lot of people have asked me like, hey, how do you achieve that like 2D illustrated look with nodes? Because nodes are kind of complicated. I think a lot of people, especially if you come from like traditional design programs like Krita or from Photoshop, a lot of people are like very intimidated by doing nodes, or doing like a node setup in Blender, and it's actually really easy to do and to be able to get the look that you want, and then use grease pencil in order to make it look like something you would create in another program, but have it be like 3D. So that's the other video idea that I have. But I have definitely a lot more planned, like in the future. I think I want to branch out to different capabilities of Blender, like geometry nodes and grease pencil. Like I like doing really unconventional uses for grease pencil, and and I think it's just fun to experiment with because I think it's so much fun to see like the Blender development team like go crazy and really love adding new features to it and seeing the creations from the community. Like it gets me excited to be able to make more content based on it. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about. I did want to branch out like on my channel to do coding because it's funny, like I'm not really on TikTok at all. But the TikTok content that like is popular is my coding content, my creative coding, which is like so different from like my YouTube channel or my Instagram. And a lot of people have asked me like, could you make like coding tutorials for or, like Python coding tutorials for this program? And I was like, okay, like it would be so different from like my grease pencil content, but if it's something that they want, I don't know, I might try to do something in the future, but I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, I think it's going to be primarily Blender stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Blender is good because it's also has a script for literally has a Python text editor, so I think that'd be
Yeah.
really. And yeah, actually, there you posted videos of machine learning art from 2 years since 2 years ago. So while
Yeah.
everyone here is like talking about AI or generative art and all that stuff, you were like one of the people who were doing it, before it was cool.
Well, what I will say though is I like that video because it demonstrates how I think like art should be used with artificial intelligence. Like it does not use any other artwork. It doesn't generate art. Like it uses a data set that I created and then applies onto another image. And I think the important part is that I didn't use any copyrighted data. I don't know. I think I, it's just really hard. I don't want to be the person that says that's how you should use AI for creativity because obviously, I'm not going to be that. But I think the important thing is I want to say, like with the hot topic nowadays with people arguing for generative art, like the issue is it still was trained off copyrighted art. Like it still has data sets that were created by humans, and I don't know, I think that that doesn't sit right with me. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, all right. And the next question is, what area beside the area you're working on right now would you be interested to explore and learn in the future? Like basically, what other hobbies or aspirations you have that you want to expand aside from art? I mean, of course, I need to mention that you have a baking page and you're
Oh
really into
yeah.
baking and stuff like that. But aside from that, also you can talk about it as well. Actually, tell us a little bit of info about
Sure.
that as well. Would you be interested, to expand on and learn in the future?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I have that baking page. So that's funny because I actually started that last year. It's something that I've always liked to do. It's just for fun. I like to make it for gifts and stuff. And so it's nice to like work with my hands. Like I really like being able to just physically, work with. create something. So that's kind of like my outlet for that. I used to do stunts, which is like something I like to do. Like tricking. Do you know if you know what martial arts tricking was? But
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was like so yeah, that was like my favorite thing to do like for a while. Because I like being like really active too. But I haven't been able to. I've had to like slow down with that because like I just want to focus on like something that I like or I want to pursue like for sure, and that's been a lot of like digital art. And baking is easy because it's just at home. I don't need to go anywhere. But as far as like, expanding into something, so my real passion isn't just Blender, but it's actually like immersive entertainment, like being able to create installations for people to experience. So before this, I actually used to work. I don't know if you've been to like a Disney park. Um,
No, never.
okay, so Disney has this a division called Imagineering, where it's like people specifically dedicated to creating the theme park, and so it's a division where they have more than 150 disciplines of like writers, artists, designers, engineers. Scientists, and they develop these new experiences to put in like parks around where like around the world, I guess. So they have people developing ride vehicles or experimenting with new technology or creating like different shows, and so it's a pretty big effort. But that was always my dream job since I was a kid, because I used to grow up going to Disneyland, and that's where I learned about that was a thing. And so it was something that I never thought was possible, but I ended up getting that title and that job like 2 years ago, or no, 4 years ago now actually. And yeah, there I was actually not doing design. I was doing more like I was doing creative producing. My title was research and development imagineer. So we were researching like new creative technologies, which is where I studied AI, machine learning. I was doing a lot of like augmented reality, projection mapping, some like robotics. So it was a lot of like working with scientists. Disney actually has like a research division called Disney Research, and they have these scientists publishing like actual research papers on novel technology that we're working on that we've patented. So and that's where I've always wanted to go. So anything that like I step into, whether it be Blender, I want to be able to like put that into my actual work. So touch designer is kind of a big thing I want to do. I don't know if you know that program, but it's like a
No.
generative it's a generative art program that also uses like a node system. It's not free, unfortunately, but it's something that's used for like art installations, and that's really amazing for that type of work. And you can actually code it to take in different inputs, so people can interact with it. So that's the cool thing. And yeah, I want to do like more coding stuff, some more technical stuff. And I could probably do that within Blender. So that's something that I kind of like want to hook up. But yeah, I'm really interested in doing more, different technical stuff. But obviously, staying within my niche for sure.
All right, and well, we reached the final question and section of the podcast, which is called time capsule. And I think by the name of it, you can understand, what it's going to be about. Basically, imagine we're recording your voice right now, and we're going to put it in a time capsule, and the world is going to end pretty soon. So, by your message is now to any survivors who come out of fallout, and they find this time capsule and just listening to each episode, for anyone who's listening to this podcast at any point of time in future, what do you have to say? It doesn't have to be art tip, it just has to be whatever that comes from your heart. What does Kevin Ramirez has to say?
Like to me or to anyone, to anyone
To
else.
anyone, like, what does Kevin Ramirez has to say to anyone who might be listening?
Oh, I would say create something that you like. Create things that you like. That's what I would say. I think that's really important. Create something that you're going to look back on and actually be proud that you made it, and look back and think that it was something that you felt at the time. Because it's funny because there's so many arguments on like what is considered art. And yeah, I understand like the fundamental and like that definition, but I think personally it has to be something that you like and that you felt at the time. And I think if it's something that you don't really resonate with, I don't think it's worth it, in my opinion. And I really think that you only have like a limited amount of time to live, and be healthy and be able to do the things you love to do. And I think it should be spent doing something or creating things that you like. So that's what I would say.
All right. Thank you so much for for coming on for this episode. Where can people contact you if they had any questions? Is your Twitter and Instagram account okay?
Sure, yeah, you can do that. Twitter and Instagram works.
All right, awesome. They're also linked in the description of this episode as well. And yeah, where we just when I finish episode 200, I'm gonna also mention and put it on my Instagram page as well. I'm just 1/5 of the way there to my one of my big goals. Like because one of my goals is to do at least like one of the things that makes me relax a bit for the podcasting is I need to do 1,000 episodes.
Mm,
Technically, it
a
should be
lot.
1,001. Do you know why? Because the first episode, which should have been pilot episode, was 5 minutes of myself just ranting about what the podcast is going to be. So I'm not going to consider myself. So technically, when I reach episode 100, 1,001, I can die happy. Let's just say that. And yeah, again, thank you so much for coming by. Appreciate your time, and thank you
Thank you
to
so
anyone
much
who.
for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you so much you tuned in and watched this episode on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the other platforms, wherever you listened or watched. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. And also, if there's any comments or suggestions, as always, leave them down in the comment section down below, or you can just hit me a DM on Instagram. I always, check everything. Like, I don't get much DMs, but you get the point. I'm not trying to act like, oh, I'm super busy. But yeah, basically, I check all the DMs. All right. And that's about it. Uh, Take care, everyone. Stay safe till next episode. Bye bye. Bye.